Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom, and we are joined by Jim Dean, the chair of Democracy for America. Jim, thank you so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program. And we're getting his audio coming in shortly.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Thanks, Jim. Jim, how are you?
Thanks for having me on. Sorry about that.
No problem. How are you?
I'm doing well. I've had a couple of days of great organizing meetings in Pennsylvania, and actually ended up in D.C. Last night. And we're really working hard to empower a lot of good folks out in the streets that are trying to make changes in their communities and get this country back right again.
So we've been talking a lot today, obviously, with the news about the missile strikes in Syria, also the appointment of Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, where he's Justice Gorsuch, asterisk, that now more than ever, we need people to raise their voices, to get organized. And, we talked about a lot of ways of doing that, but I know that Democracy for America is a key leader in organizing people and raising people's voices so that they cannot be ignored.
Well, thank you for that. I have to say, we just released a statement about this action, which, of course, was really not thought out. Nobody was in Congress was consulted, which is a constitutional issue, and a lot of other things that give this the look of something that's very half-baked. One of the things that we really do need to look out for as these developments happen is, of course, the human cost, the civilian deaths, what we are or actually not doing about the refugee crisis. But also there's something that Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal talked about a few months ago, which is the use of an issue like this, the use of an action like this to try to gain political power under the other agendas that the Trump administration might have. And I think that's a real possibility. I think it shows the moral bankruptcy of an administration like this, but we also saw the same thing during the Bush administration with respect to initiating the war in Iraq. These are things that are sort of textbook type things of a lot of neo-fascist movements in the early part of the 19th or 20th century, but we're sort of seeing that now. And I think it's very important to have a healthy skepticism, and this is not in any way to justify what's happened or what Assad has done to his people. It's the fact that this administration is doing things outside of the process and basically claiming the ground of ruler-in-chief and try to use national security for something that it should not be used for.
And I think, something that we've talked about on just on the issue of Syria is that Donald Trump is still Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the guy who, can't even make a phone call correctly without offending our longstanding allies. He tweets blatant falsehoods about, Obama wiretapping him. He's so then driven to just pretend that his reality is real that he pulls, a huge distortion field. We saw Nunes in Representative Nunes he stepped down because he was called to the White House and then had to protect the White House and released information in what seems to be an ethical violation, which is why he stepped down. And all of that was because Donald Trump, some Saturday morning, fired off an ill-thought-out tweet that was untrue and would not admit and apologize for that. This is not the man that I have any faith. I have no faith in this guy's ability to have a thoughtful, clear, strategic vision for using military force.
Well, you, Alex, are absolutely correct in that. This was never the person that any of us, I think, wanted with a hand on the proverbial button. And, here we are with a burgeoning international crisis with the possibility of increased violence. And the two biggest protagonists in this are basically two figures who cut their chops in the world of organized crime in terms of their own personal behavior. This is not a confidence builder, and it gives me great pause and frankly makes me extremely nervous about whether we're going to be able to continue on with a president like this who frankly is not thoughtful and is not capable of thinking through the actions that he takes. Give this to Obama, and Syria was not exactly his easiest or frankly best work. If you look at what was going on with their own chemical tax earlier, but he really did try to use and understood the levers of power that we had, particularly over Russia's financial situation, and especially their dictators, Vladimir Putin's financial situation, most of his money of which, of course, is in foreign countries. So there are a lot of levers to pull here. We've just spent a lot of money on something where we don't really know if there was any efficacy to it. Maybe there was, but this is really, a pinprick. They may have accused Obama of that, but frankly, this isn't going to change the landscape of what's going on. It's not going to make Assad a better human being. So what's the long-term game plan in? And we're asking that of a guy who's never had a long-term game plan in his life.
Jim, what is DFA doing in the upcoming recess, and what are your next few steps as a leader in the resistance movement?
Well, our feeling now is we have a number of opportunities. First of all, in this recess, we will be joining with a number of other folks to encourage our folks to be at town halls, to be having their voices heard. Certainly that was very, very successful in making sure that this repeal of the Affordable Health Care Act did not go through. And we need to be back there again, questioning these people about what Trump's foreign policy is, questioning these folks about Neil Gorsuch and the rights of women and the rights of employees, and questioning a lot of the other things that these senators and Congress people apparently think are good ideas in terms of getting rid of the rights of workers, the rights of taxpayers, and the rights of a whole lot of other folks out there, and particularly with respect to Sessions and what he's going to be trying to do with police departments. So town halls are a great opportunity. The second thing we're working on is we have an election, or there are elections going on, I think, every single week this month of April. There are municipal elections. They're happening all over the country. Some of them are these special elections, as you probably talked about, Alex. These are terrific opportunities for us to call other members and other voters to get them to the polls in these districts. These folks have real shots at winning. Ossoff, who is polling quite far ahead of his opposition, is going for all of it. He's not going for just the top two thing. He wants 50+1. I think that's a good way to approach this race. And any one of these victories right now, or victory in any one of these races, is really going to turn tail, or have the Republican caucus turn tail from some of the excesses of the past. So that's a chance to make that happen right now. So we have electoral opportunities. We have these town hall opportunities, and, of course, all of the things that we need to be doing to making our cities stronger and better as the last defenses against what the Trump administration is trying to do.
So where can people get more information about Democracy for America? Plug into resistance around the recess. I had Ben Wickler on earlier talking about resistancerecess.com. But also, I think the special elections and especially the local focus on local elections and moving out from there is something that DFA is taking a lead on. I had Senator Merkley on earlier who ended with a very clear call to action that getting people involved in at the local level in these elections at the local level and building out from there is the path forward for the resistance.
Well, it absolutely is. His leadership, of course, is making that a lot easier for a lot of folks, particularly those who have not been trusting of the political process for a long time. You get leaders like Merkley, that gets people out. And I really appreciate his work. We're at democracyforamerica.com, and as well as on Facebook and Twitter. And certainly appreciate anybody who's out there doing this great work and want to be as supportive and resourceful of those efforts as we possibly can.
Jim Dean, Chair of Democracy for America. Thank you so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
Alex, thanks for having me. Thanks.
So you heard it from everybody today. It is the time to raise our voices. It has worked, but now we need to increase them more than ever. The recess is coming up. We've got special elections. You've got local races. DemocracyForAmerica.com, ResistanceRecess.com. The most radical act you can take is to get organized, and that is what we have to do right now. We have to not stop, not slow down, but accelerate into this. We have to be clear and clarion in our calls for change. You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom, and we're going to take your calls for the rest of the show.